I think one of the major changes, if you compare today to say 30 years ago, is that 30 years ago there was limited presence of foreign companies in Latin America. As U.S. companies started to move into Mexico, into other parts, into Brazil, into other parts of Latin America, it started. Part of what that foreign corporation brought was the cross training and the learning opportunities for the workforce in those countries. I used to work in the automotive industry in Mexico, for example, and some of the best engineers and best management skills that Mexican nationals had were as a result of that transition of knowledge, from the U.S. companies or Japanese companies as I went down there. So I think that Latin Americans have had now, I would say for about 30 years, they have had the experience of being exposed to how business is done globally by these companies that have moved into their countries and hired local people to work in their factories or their business operations. And that to me has been a great learning opportunity for executives, for engineers, for technicians, people at all levels of their career path. And that has resulted in great performance by a lot of them. And I think when the Latin Americans exposed to those opportunities, because usually in most countries in Latin America, they don't get an opportunity to grow that much. You only grow if your parents are wealthy or you have connections somewhere in some company or in the government. And so opportunities are somewhat limited. But when they see an opportunity open up through a foreign company, they take quite a bit of advantage of that opportunity, I think more than a normal American would. Because Americans are more, there's more opportunities available for Americans, for example. Whereas for Latin America, it's more limited, and so when they see an opportunity, they'll take it and they won't leave it. I think having good leadership traits to begin with, no matter what culture you're in, good leadership traits are going to be a necessity to be able to lead in a foreign country. One thing. The other thing is having the cultural, some aspect of the culture that you're going into, that knowledge. But I think most importantly, having the keen interest to learn from that culture. That if an executive doesn't care about the culture or is somewhat in a mode of thinking they're superior to the culture they're going to, the employees and the partners and the peers see right through that. And when they sense that, then there's that inherent arrogance, if you will, from an executive that doesn't enjoy my culture, so therefore the communication and other business aspects start to suffer. I think leadership is being able to, as the great Toichi Ono said from Toyota back then, is that you should lead as if you have no authority to do so. Where some people don't have to report to you. And you can accomplish that if you can have people follow you, not because they have to, because they want to. I think it's a major difference in a leadership style that bosses should have. And I think the good leaders are the ones that don't impose their power, their position upon their employees, but they convince them that this is the right path to go into. Our customer here in the U.S. is declining, because the normal consumption of their products is declining. So we knew that if we stayed only focused in the U.S., we would also decline with them. And so that was the spark that made us think about where are they growing around the world, and then targeting those countries to grow in as well. Having multicultural knowledge, multicultural experience, not just being bilingual. I think being multilingual is one thing, but being multicultural is a completely separate, different thing. And I think diversity includes the multicultural aspect of any initiative. The results of the business, I would say, right? In the end, it's whether a person can perform. I think a person can be diverse and can be multiculturally talented, but if they're not operationally or technically or some other aspect of their job function talented, then that alone will not make it. They have to have some knowledge besides just being bilingual, being bicultural in that certain region. that certain country. So the, the the knowledge of being a leader, can you lead, in some country, I think is important, and that should be a prerequisite for any leader going overseas. Well, I think in every culture there's that everybody wants to be in a comfort zone, and why, the fear of change, the fear of what's happening in the future, etc. But I think in today's day and age, that kind of employee doesn't really fit in any company that has to be forward-looking, that has to be growing, that has to be challenging itself continuously. We had that in our company for several years, people that did one job and that's all they did, and that's it. And eventually those jobs get threatened by somebody doing it better or by a computer system doing it for them, et cetera. So if you won't continue getting kicked, if you will, or getting challenged in your position, then you may get old, not in age, but old in your knowledge over your job function.